What's up, everybody? Thanks for swan diving back into another episode of Jesus Is. My name is Pat Gunning. I'm the youth minister at Sacred Heart Church in Ocean Beach in San Diego, California. And I'm really excited about this Sunday's gospel because it's kind of one of my favorites. There's a lot of my favorites, but this parable that we hear that Jesus tells is about the workers in the vineyard. And you might have heard about this one before. It's kind of a famous one. But it's really important for us, I think, especially in this time while we're still going through the pandemic in the world. It's a really important reminder of a few things. One, the fact that it's never too late for our conversion. Two, that God isn't fair. Life's not fair and God's not fair, and that's a good thing, actually. And three, that God is not outdone in his generosity. And so basically what happens in the story is there's a landowner who goes out and gets workers to work in his plot of land for a daily wage. And so he hires these workers, they come in, they work the daily wage, and then this landowner goes back out to where he found these workers a couple hours later, and he hires them to come work in that same day for the rest of the day for the daily wage. And then he goes back out a couple hours later, and he does this throughout the day until it's an hour before the end of the workday, and he still goes out and he gets these workers to come in. And so you have a bunch of workers who worked all kinds of different amounts of time. You have a full day's work and you have an hour of work. And at the end of the day, when evening came, he told the foreman to go pay them, starting with the last and ending with the first, meaning starting with the last of the workers who were hired and then ending with those who worked the entire day. And so he started with the last, and he paid them a full daily wage. So when the first saw this, they were excited because they were like, oh, they got a normal daily wage for doing an hour of work. We're going to get even more. And that didn't turn out to be the case. They all got paid the same amount. And they complained, and they were like, this isn't fair. You've made us to be equal to them. And basically the landowner said, like, you know, this is my money. You're saying this isn't fair? Like, I told you I'd pay you a daily wage, and this is what I'm doing. I'm paying you a daily wage. And then we hear the famous line, the last will be first and the first will be last. And so, again, the parable teaches us, I think, three things, probably more things too, but I kind of want to run through three of them. And the first one is, it's never too late for our conversion. Whatever this looks like with each person can vary, you know, whether it's a conversion or a reversion or literally just learning who God is. The point is, there's no last chance with God. We kind of run into these last chances in our lives sometimes. We might experience times in our lives where we missed something and we have to accept that. For example, when I was in high school, I was trying out for the basketball team, and I forgot to turn in my medical waiver for in time for the first day of the tryouts. And tryouts were only 2 days long, and so I missed the entire first day because the coach was, you know, hard on these kind of things. He was a tough guy, and he wouldn't let me try out for the first day. So I had to literally watch all my friends go try out for the basketball team. And if you know an athlete, like, that competitive drive in you is just like, this is torturous. So I made sure to get the medical waiver in the next day, and I tried out, and I had an awesome tryout. I really thought I made the team. All my friends thought I was going to make the team. You know, like, I really was confident. I was like, this was an awesome tryout. And so the next day, I was shocked, confused, and upset when I found out that I didn't make the cut. And so I talked to the coach, and I asked him why and what I needed to do, what I needed to work on so I could make the team next year. And he said it was my shooting. And I was actually also surprised to hear him say that, because that was the best part of my game. And so I said, with all due respect, I didn't miss any shots in my tryout. I was really shocked. And so he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, give me a ball. And so I shot a few threes and I made them all. And then he said that it was my form of my shooting. And I really felt like he was grasping at straws, but he basically said, what's done is done, and then I should try out next year. And I felt like, you know, he had kind of made the decision and was just trying to find a reason. I don't know. I mean, maybe he did think I had to work on my form. It doesn't really matter. The point is, it really felt unfair and not well-founded. But at the end of the day, he probably didn't remember me playing because I only had 1 day of tryouts where all these other players had 2. And there's also over 100 kids trying out, you know, so it's totally understandable that having 2 days versus 1 makes a difference, and that he probably remembered those kids more than me. And I felt like I'd lost my chance. And I really had. But I had to accept that, whether it was fair or not, whether it was just or not, whether it made sense or not, it didn't matter because I didn't make the team. So I couldn't go back on that. That was my last chance, right? All I could do was, make sure next year I had the waiver in on time, make my shots and put myself back out there. But with God, life isn't a tryout. And this is such good news. We don't need to make all the days of the tryout to make it to heaven. There's always an opportunity to live only for God, the opportunity to be redeemed. There's always the possibility to start again. God has granted us our time on earth to walk towards him. Even if we fall, he continues to give us the strength to get back up. That's why the sacrament of confession is so important, because when we lose grace, our spiritual strength, we can regain it in the sacraments, especially in confession and in the Eucharist. So it's never too late to turn back to God, no matter where we've been, what sins we've committed, what poor choices we've made, whether we forgot the medical waiver, whatever it is, or if we need to work on our form, however many times, God always wants us back, and it's never too late with God. God is just happy to be in communion with us, no strings attached. So that's the first thing, is that it's never too late for our conversion. The second thing is that we aren't owed anything, and we can't earn God's love. We already have it, okay? We aren't owed anything. From a human point of view, this gospel story is really unfair. If you work more than someone else, then you should get paid more, right? But Jesus is trying to show us that in the spiritual realm, everything is gift, and we aren't owed anything. We're so used to having to prove ourselves or to earn what we have that we tend to put God in the same box, right? We say, like, if I do these nice things, if I go to church on Sundays, if I pray for others and, do these kind of things, then I'll get this, and that. Then I'll get to heaven. Then I'll find my future spouse and they'll be perfect. Then I'll get an awesome job. Then I'll get out of debt. Then I'll this, that, fill in the blank, right? We think that these things that we're doing for our faith, it's like, Sunday, time to do my God day and, do my God things so I can earn my God points. So at the end of this time, I can be with God. And I can get these things that I want also. Kind of like a selfish way to look at it. We become convinced that because we've been faithful, good things are around the corner and they're going to reward us. But the fact of the matter is this couldn't be further from the truth. First of all, because God loves us unconditionally, which means that there's no conditions on his love for us. It's already infinite. He can't love us more than he already does because it's infinite. No matter what we do, we can be like, God, look at me, look what I'm doing. See, look at these awesome things. And God's like, I love you so much. Great, The reality is also God isn't fair. He's just not. We tend to think of things in terms of fairness in our human perspectives and our human points of view. But God's not fair. And honestly, this is a really good thing to hear. I know it might sound harsh, it might sound cold, you might be like, what? God's not fair? That seems like the most backwards thing I ever heard. But if God were fair, we would be condemned to hell. Plain and simple. If God were fair, he wouldn't have had to die on a cross for us. There is literally nothing fair about what Jesus went through, right? None of it was fair. Him being charged with blasphemy, him being scourged, him being condemned to death, and most of all, with the worst possible form of death that the Romans knew at the time. None of that was fair. And yet God did it out of love for us. And so we're expected, and the responsibility is on us to do the same for others, to love others unconditionally, to love God unconditionally. God's ways are not our ways. There's nothing in our nature that can demand grace, and we also can't earn it. It's freely given by God when we need it, which he knows infinitely more than us. And so just as we freely receive these gifts, these graces from God, we should freely give to others. And so the third thing is God's generosity. God's generosity is a manifestation of his love for us. He knows every person intimately and personally. He knows that the needs of some are bigger than others also. To think that God loves some people more than others is also an injustice to God. That's really unfair, I guess you could say. But God owes nothing to his creatures. He owes nothing to us. Everything he gives us is gratuitous. It's a gift. It's a fruit of his infinite love for us. And it's easy to treat God humanly. It's forgetting that he's God. We're like, God, you're screwing me over right now. Like, what the heck? Like, man, God, like, aren't you going to come through? Are you going to come through for me, God? Is God really as good as he says he is? And we forget that he's God. He is. He is what he says he is. The most beautiful gift that he gives us is his grace. Everything is gift. We have already been given so much. We shouldn't expect anything more because we've already been given everything we need. We have life. We have like that, and that is it, like right there. And everything that follows is gift. So as we reflect on this gospel, may we see that anything in our life that seems unfair in our human and, quite frankly, selfish points of view is really a blessing, as God's infinite generosity is never outdone, and he will provide for us when we need, and a lot of times we don't expect. The Lord knows us best, and he has our good always at the forefront of his heart, and he's ready to pour out his blessings on us if we come to receive them. Remember, there's no last chance. There's no last chance with God. It's never too late. I hope you all have an awesome week, and God bless.